Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar today on business continuity amongst the COVID-19 situation. The title of the session is about unified IT, which is what Fusion5's approach to supporting our employees and helping them continue doing business wherever they are. My name is Edward Zazo. I'm the General Manager of the Enterprise Service Management team that takes care of unified IT at Fusion5. And I'll have my contact details at the end as well. So at Fusion5, as you may have seen some communications from us, we're open for business, and we will be proceeding to support and service all our customers as per usual. And that's because we invoked our business continuity plan, and my department, so the ESM department, heavily contributed to the ability for us to do this, and that's really what today's session is about, is to share with you how we've done it and how we can also help you navigate this climate. The key challenges of supporting a distributed workforce, we've got 500 employees and 3 IT staff, right? So these are real problems, and I'm sure a lot of you listening in would have some common problems. How can we keep our employees productive, happy, and continuing with their day-to-day tasks? Especially now that they can't just go and tap someone from IT on the shoulder and ask them for help. Everybody's working from home. How do we continue that same level of comfort and help and support? From a corporate perspective, how do we minimize our risk around the IT assets the employees have taken home, right? How do we protect them outside the network when they dial in from their home networks, from a cafe, from an airport, or wherever? And of course, with that comes a large degree of variation in bandwidth. Not everybody has NBN in Australia, for example, and things like that. So technology comes into it, how we can continue to support our users over just pure internet wherever they are. And of course, from a resourcing perspective, as I mentioned, it's not practical to book calendar meetings to have one-on-ones with our employees and take over their screens and help them and things like that. So it was all about making IT support easy and accessible for all our employees, and really that was the mission statement. Now, how we solve this from a technology perspective, I just thought I'd share that because we usually get questions about that for the analytical minds or the technologists out there. So the 8 key components, really starting from the top, is accessibility. So when an employee needs something, they can just go to a cloud-based self-service portal to request help, right? As a matter of fact, we use Avanti Service Manager for that. And if you're an existing customer, you would know that as iHelp. So we use iHelp both internally and externally to service both our customers and our employees. From a data perspective, we have moved everything to the cloud. So we're fully invested in Azure and Office 365, and we help a lot of organizations with their change management and adoption of these technologies, because it minimizes data loss. So if everything's in the cloud and a device gets lost, you don't lose valuable IP and information. We've also implemented what is called a unified endpoint management solution, which is really a device management solution. But as the word unified implies, it doesn't matter what make, model, vendor a device is from. It could be a iOS, Android, Microsoft, whatever it is. We have a single solution to manage those devices over pure internet. And the technology we selected there is Avanti Endpoint Manager, and the cloud service appliance enables us to actually reach out over pure internet and help our employees wherever they are. We've also had to think about our operating environment. So we've automated the processes and standardized them around Windows 10 being the corporate standard. And we're using Avanti Endpoint Manager as well to automate all our imaging and patching. So when we order laptops when they arrive and things like that, it's all consistent, and they're also getting patched in the same way. Then we deployed sensors. These sensors give us real-time access to the assets, and I'll be doing a short demonstration of that. And the technology we use there is Avanti Cloud. Now, from a user productivity and a risk mitigation perspective, single sign-on was rolled out. So all corporate applications use Azure AD and single sign-on for authentication. I'll talk a little bit more about that and multi-factor authentication. And finally, and this is a continuous improvement, and it's an evolving thing, and it's not like a light switch approach. It's almost a continuous cycle of discovery, insights, and action. It's really about application control and privileges management. And we use a combination here of Ivanti application control and Microsoft's group policies framework. And this is all about making sure that cyber criminals can't just run anything on our devices. So what all that gave us is unified IT, and the ability to support our employees wherever they are. So let me show you what that looks like. So what you're looking at here is the tool that our IT uses, and it basically tells us where all our employees are. As a matter of fact, it is after hours in New Zealand, so most of New Zealand's offline. You can even see here we've got somebody traveling to Russia, and they're actually online right now. But the point here is I can reach out in milliseconds and drill down into different locations and different machines. But more importantly, the use case here is, somebody calls. So let's say I'm calling IT, and I tell them who I am. I don't even need to tell them the machine. And they can start helping me straight away. They can say, okay, we can see here, are you actually in Sydney? And let's have a look at your machine. Wow, everything looks good. What are you complaining about? We've got a whole bunch of tools here. And the bottom line is, without remote control or screen sharing, if I complain about something, IT can just do things on the fly and help me and get me back to work, right? That's the bottom line here about this technology. But let's take it one step further, being proactive around incident problem management. So where the machine learning comes in, it's actually connecting to a vendor or websites like Microsoft, IBM, HP, and getting hardware information, but it's also going to software vendors and checking out, licenses and things like that. And same with security vendors. So I can very quickly just say, okay, I want to have a quick look about, the health of my entire fleet real quick. And in real time, in milliseconds, it's identified there's 197 assets it can reach, and it's quickly asking them their levels of the patches, right? And this is the level of control that we need if everybody's working from home, so we can actually be able to remediate and take actions and keep our employees protected. So that's all I wanted to show you real quick, is the end result of having to go through this journey ourselves. But part of today's session is also sharing with you how we got there and how we can help you, right? So for us, we implemented unified IT in 4 stages. And for us, the business outcome had to be balancing user productivity with how much we lock down our assets, right? And every organization has a varying level of balance. A lot of customers we see have a lot of tools, a lot of agents, a lot of mechanisms to lock down things. And we find that, unfortunately, the result of that is user dissatisfaction. They can't do things, or, they waste a lot of time talking to IT to actually do what they need to do. So the 4-step process is, as you can see there, we had to take a step back, understand the landscape, understand all these concepts that are going viral, around cybersecurity and GDPR and all that sort of good stuff. Then we had to come up with a action plan to protect ourselves, our employees, and the organization, from a compliance perspective. We then had to put in some capabilities to continuously detect, and finally how we respond. Not if we get breached, when we get breached, how do we handle it? So, I'm just going to share with you, I know in the current climate, you may not have time to do all 4 steps, and that's why I just wanted to share it with you. We've gone through the exercise of understanding the landscape, and we can share with you our lessons learned. But I want to take the opportunity today to actually simplify some of the things that are traditionally complex. So cybersecurity, put simply, is about 2 things. It's about the attack window, which is a time metric, and that's the time cyber criminals have, the window of time they have to attack, right? And that's where a lot of the legislations you're hearing about are changing, and I'll allude to that a little bit later. So the whole aim is to close down that window as much as possible so those criminals can't get in. The other thing is the surface, attack surface. These are all the entry points, right? So we had to look at our own organization, the types of applications, the standard operating environment, and identify the entry points and the tools we're using to keep things secure and standardize the processes and the technology underneath that. So that's cybersecurity in a nutshell. From a security posture and balancing productivity with security, we also discovered that there's a deep link between IT asset management and security. IT assets are no different to, capital assets. Of course, they're not as expensive, but the same concept applies. A life cycle governance, from procurement through to disposal, disposing properly, all that sort of stuff. And of course, all the local and global organizations around security. Actually, if you look at it closely, they're almost saying it's a prerequisite that you have asset management in place. So I've translated that into a few questions on the right-hand side. So what we're talking about here, before implementing security controls, do you know what assets are being introduced to your environment every minute, every hour, every day? Do you allow your employees to install whatever they need on their laptops or workstations? Do you actually know what hardware you have and where it is? Do you know what licenses are being used? Who they're allocated to, and those types of questions are actually asset-centric questions, and they need to be answered. And we had to revamp our asset management disciplines before we embraced unified IT. It's actually phase 1 of unified IT. Then we also had to do research about all the new stuff we're hearing about 18 months ago, GDPR, notifiable data breaches, and the KPIs I'm sharing with you on the screen are actually from the last report, which was December 2019, and there were 537 reported incidents. I'm sure the real number is much higher. But again, this is useful information publicly available, and really the value we got out of this is on the right-hand side, that the majority, so nearly 80% of attacks were compromised credentials. So that also eliminated, by process of elimination or prioritization, it told us where we needed to start. So once we understood and digested all that, we put an action plan together. And as an organization, Fusion5 is a business solutions company. So our customers' project information, our own intellectual property, things like that, we had to make sure we never lose that. So we've gone with a cloud-first approach, and everything's in the cloud. It's backed up. And of course, what that means is if any employee loses their laptop or phone, we can easily wipe it and no data is lost, right? Because it's backed up and we can quickly inject that data back into the new device that we give them. The other thing was single sign-on, and since credentials was such an issue with the notifiable data breaches, it just made sense that we get two benefits in one step. One of it is customer satisfaction. So all our employees do not need to have a little black book recalling all their usernames and passwords and, heaven forbid, lose them and put us at risk, but also for them to be conveniently able to get into the applications when they need to approve something, to log a timesheet, to send a purchase order, to do X, Y, and Z. And then the third one, which came last, was switching on geo-based mobility, especially in this climate where we actually need to control and monitor where the users are. We've introduced multi-factor authentication. So if somebody's sitting in a McDonald's cafe and they need to approve a purchase order, they'll be challenged. And we took it one step further, where that user doesn't actually need to run an app and copy 6 to 8 digit code. They simply have to say, yes, I acknowledge or I approve. I'm indeed trying to access this from outside the network. And that just gives us that extra level of auditability and tracking. Now, in the back office, so IT's responsibility, and this goes back to the legislations I was talking about, patching everything and patching our employees' devices. And the latest industry, what's happening is industry by industry, the legislations are getting rewritten, and the latest one is actually the finance industry. APRA released CPS 234, which literally mandates the minimization of that window that I was talking about. It's all about patching systems really quickly and proving that you can do so, and hence the compliance bit. And there's huge penalties if they don't. Stage 3 is now detection. So we've put our protection, protecting our perimeter and all that sort of good stuff. How do we detect things? I won't spend too much time on this, and this is probably where a lot of the noise is, antivirus, malware, blacklisting, whitelisting. At Fusion5, we always like to do more with less, reduce technical debt for our customers, and we're no different. We apply all these disciplines to ourselves. So we had a good look at things, and we found that there is a simple way to do all this stuff. You don't need a lot of tools. It's basically saying, in principle, if a piece of code or software or email attachment or anything is trying to run on a device and it has not been authorized by IT, or it hasn't been distributed or put in place by IT, we're going to block it. That way, IT departments and tools don't need to, maintain a huge list of things to block and a huge list of things to let it run, right? And there's, we can definitely have a deep and meaningful chat about this. But that's the model we've adopted, and it's continuously evolving, and that's how we run our back office. A big part of detection is actually visibility. So dashboards, yes, real-time dashboards that have all the KPIs configured and color-coded and RAG statuses, really highlighting, the detection of a vulnerability or something and quickly actioning it or sending notifications to the correct people to action it. Finally, stage 4 is about responding, and what we find is it's all to recover from the issue really quickly and to send the correct communications out. So to support a distributed workforce, we have to be able to isolate the infected devices quickly. Unfortunately, a lot of our customers that I speak to, if they detect an anomaly, they pick up the phone, the IT guys try and actually call that person and literally ask them to physically unplug from the network, and that's just not practical if we're trying to work from home. The other thing here is invoking the correct processes. At Fusion5, we are ITIL aligned, we're a managed service provider, and we use ITIL, so being able to quickly isolate and then kick off the correct processes and fast track them to correct teams is very important. And of course, from a remediation perspective, being able to wipe those devices and re-image them quickly. We try and do that within an hour. So we just say, go grab a lunch and come back, and your infected machine will be cured. That's really the level of getting back up and running that we target. And of course, working from home will introduce its own challenges. But again, we have a standardized process around this. And easily notifying impacted parties. Absolutely discuss and document procedures. And again, Fusion5's gone through this, and we can help you with those procedures. I guess the key takeaway there is try and use other mediums other than email, right? We have Yammer pages, we have Teams chat rooms like SWAT, fast response chats configured, and all this stuff dynamically posts over there so it can get actioned a lot quicker. So in summary, I hope you've seen from the demonstration the next generation of providing excellent support to your employees, regardless of where they are, regardless of there being a crisis or not. It's just practical to be able to unify all IT aspects into one platform, if you will, so we can provide a better level of service. And at the end of the day, this is what my team does. ESM team, Enterprise Service Management team, does here at Fusion5, and we'll be happy to help you. Before we wrap up, there were some FAQs that usually come up when we talk about these things. And so one of the questions is, okay, what do we need to consider before we embark on a unified IT journey? So two things. There's a big dependency on your cloud approach, and your adoption rate of Office 365 and things like this. So I definitely recommend, we have a chat about that first, because there is a dependency for this stuff to work, if you're in the cloud already. If you're not, we'll find ways to fast track you. The other part to consider is just keeping an open mind that this is a new way of it's a modern workplace. It's the digital transformation of IT, if you will. So just consider that, like, this is not a traditional approach. It's probably the way of the future. It's a young concept, but it's here now, and it will basically enable you to overcome any future crisis where employees have to work from home. How quickly can you deploy this? The good news is it's not a rip and replace. the vendors understand that you already probably have some tools in this space, and it's designed in such a way to leverage those. So quick wins, it's what it's about. We're not gonna, replace everything that you have the department is using. It's just a matter of putting a unified layer on top of it. As a matter of fact, we like to pilot these things. A couple of days worth of effort on our side, we can stand up a trial for you basically, and just take it from there. How much does it cost? The key vendors we talked about were Ivanti and Microsoft, as you're very well aware. They do have ELAs, which are very cost effective, and they're subscription based. But just to answer the question, it depends on how many employees and devices you have. But if we pick an organization like Fusion5, 500 employees, you probably be looking about 40K per annum to get this level of remote support. Just as an estimate, if you will. Who from our side needs to be involved? So if this is a strategic decision, absolutely your CIO, CISO, CFO would be recommended to be engaged. If it is more of a tactical decision, just your IT managers and infrastructure managers. And of course, if you outsource your IT to a third party, they would need to be involved, because you can actually select the technology that you like and get them to manage it for you. And how to find out more? Absolutely reach out to your account managers at Fusion5, your service delivery managers. And in the odd chance that you can't get through to them, I've put on the screen our unified IT specialists, both in Australia and New Zealand. And of course, myself, absolutely feel free to reach out to me. I've been with the organization for 7 years, and I'm really passionate about this stuff, and would really like to help you achieve the desired outcomes. Thank you very much for your time, and speak to you soon.